When did you notice something about someone after years of knowing them? 1. My dad always left the last piece of food for me. Took me 23 years to realize he wasn't just not hungry. 2. When I realized my quirky friend was actually a master manipulator. Took years to see the pattern. 3. After years of knowing someone I thought a friend, I realized that they only keep me about to be the butt of the joke. I plucked up the courage to chime in with a joke about them for a change, only for it to be reacted to like I'd committed a crime. Cue me being cursed out and told to mind my place. 4. A good friend of a few years wasn't just wily and difficult to make plans with, they had a legitimate addiction problem and hid from everyone because they were ashamed of it. Far as I know, they're doing better these days. 5. The day I realized that my so-called friend actually only had time for me when they wanted something. 6. I found out my dad has been left-handed his whole life, but he writes with his right hand because of school rules when he was a kid. Took me 20 years to catch that he does everything else with his left hand. 7. One of my best friends eats the paper you take off a straw. The first time I saw it, I was like, what the heck? He gave me a strange look and said he'd done it every time for the past 10 years we'd known each other. I suppose I'm not very observant. 8. One of my closest pals used to compete in figure skating. She never brought up the fact that we had been friends for years. She casually remarked that she used to compete at a national level during a conversation discussing childhood pastimes. It was amazing to witness a whole different side of her, and she even showed me some old pictures and videos. 9. I noticed about 6 years together that my husband has a very slight lisp. He was very shocked that I had just now noticed it. To be fair to myself, though, I have a hard time hearing. 10. I had a really good friend in college. I actually still keep in touch with him, 25 years after graduating. I became friends with him our freshman year and lived down the hall from him in a dorm my sophomore year. Super cool guy, was one of the few kids on campus with his own car, even though it was an older Jeep. Towards the end of sophomore year, we're deciding what to do for spring break, and he casually mentions his family has a house in the Florida Keys that we could go down to. Like 10 of my friends were going to go, and I thought the idea of driving 20 hours to get down there and squeezing into a house with 10 other guys seemed like torture. Turns out the guy is beyond wealthy. His house was apparently like a 10-bedroom mansion on an island with only 2 other houses. I later came to learn he had a huge 4-bedroom apartment in NYC in case his family went to the city and didn't want to go back to their house. He had a huge 10-plus bedroom house on the Jersey Shore, like right on the water. It had a pool in the front yard and a 2-bedroom pool house. People walking along the boardwalk would stop and take pictures of the house. It was so crazy. His parents used their own private jet to fly his brother to and from college on weekends so they'd see him more often. All the time, he was the most down-to-earth, chillest dude I knew. He's still moving every 2 or 3 years, and when I get a Christmas card from him, I can't help but check the address, and it's always a bigger, fancier house than his previous one.